Welcome and good evening. Welcome to the Iowa City Foreign Relations Council's program featuring Elizabeth Bernal, Marcela Hurtado, I'm sorry, I should know this, I've known you for a long time, and Paola Jaramillo, sorry, who I've also known for a long time and worked with her, but I'm not good at her last name, sorry about that, as well as our Spanish interpretation from Natalia Soto Rivera on this, the 15th day of November. Thank you for joining us in person and via live stream today. My name's Janet Linus. I'm the president of the Iowa City Foreign Relations Council Board of Directors, and I will be your host for today's program. This year, if you haven't heard, we are celebrating our 40th anniversary. We have some great plans for this year and have already had a couple of events and have a couple other celebratory events coming up in the next few months to celebrate our 40th year and show our appreciation for our members, our sponsors, our community, and all of those who have made it possible for us to do these presentations for free to the community for 40 years. We have a bright future ahead, and we are really looking for the future as we go forward with continuing to provide internationally focused programming. We hope you'll check out our website, which is ICFRC.org, and you can also sign up for our monthly newsletters and find out what is going on, what are the next programs going on, where will they be, etc. And you can also follow us on social media to learn more about the exciting things that are happening this year. Today's program is part of our 2023-24 Global Connections Across Iowa, which is funded in part by Humanities Iowa and the National Endowment for the Humanities. We would ask two things. First, there are paper copies of the Humanities Iowa sign-in form that if you weren't asked to sign in when you came in, we'd appreciate getting your sign-in before you leave. It would be great if you could add your name and contact information to one of those. And second, after the program, we also have paper copies of Humanities Iowa Program Survey, which we would love to have you fill out if you would. And those are in the back of the room, and we even have pens for you ready to go. So if you could fill those out and leave them with us, we would appreciate it. We also want to give a special note of appreciation to the Resilient Sustainable Future for Iowa City for providing funding support for today's Spanish interpretation. And we are fortunate to have Shuri Retria here to just tell you a little bit about what's called RESFIC. I think I have that right. And he has some information. So I'm going to let him talk for just a couple of minutes.
Hello. I won't be that long. It'll just be literally seconds. So we are RISFIC. We are a new organization. I'm friends with Peter Gerlich, who is the director for the Iowa Foreign Relations Council. And I was just talking with them, and I'm like, what do you need? And he said he needed interpreters. So RISFIC is Resilient Sustainable Future for Iowa City. I have flyers for folks. But what we do is we are trying to connect neighbors with other neighbors. If you have any cool projects, if you know of anybody doing anything in the community, some of the things that we're helping out with is at Weatherby Park on the south side, there is a soccer pickup game that happens every week, and we're helping with funding for painting the lines, getting the goals. We helped a person with their decorations for Halloween because they're doing all sustainable, recycled, upcycled materials. So please just, and it's really no strings attached. We're not trying to take over a project or make you do all these stuff for grants. It's just we want to help out. So please just keep us in mind if you have any cool things in the community you want to do. And that's all. Thank you. Yeah. And I have a 2-year-old at home, so I'm so sorry I can't stay. I'll try to catch the live stream, but it's her bath. It's my time to do the bath for her. So I gotta go. But thank you. Thank you.
We appreciate the financial support from RESFIC and from all the many people, businesses, and individuals who are supporting ICFRC in this, our 40th anniversary year. And I want to actually acknowledge some of these different annual donors, sponsors, and partners for their support. They include the Iowa Arts Council through the Iowa Department of Cultural Affairs, Humanities Iowa and the National Endowment for the Humanities, the University of Iowa's International Programs, Honors Program, and Public Policy Center, the Stanley U of I Foundation Support Organization, Midwest One Bank, Taxes Plus, and City Channel 4 for providing online access to ICFRC's programs, along with the U of I Library Archives, and the Iowa City Public Library for our new home here and their wonderful assistance that they give us every day, every program we have. And last but certainly not least, the long-standing support from individuals who have helped our organization grow for 40 years. Many are some who are in the audience today, and I say a great thank you to all of you. I want to also tell you that ICFRC has adopted the Native American Land Acknowledgement prepared for the City of Iowa City's Ad Hoc Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the Human Rights Commission. The ICFRC recognizes that our home community of Iowa City now occupies the homelands of Native American nations to whom we owe our commitment and dedication. The full text of ICFRC's acknowledgement is on our website at icfrc.org. Now it's my pleasure to actually welcome our speakers. Elizabeth Bernal works at the Iowa City Community School District as a Latino liaison. While there, she has helped children and their parents advocate for their needs and experiences in the public school system through translation, advocacy, and general assistance with parents in English as a second language. She is a community leader and advocate in the Iowa City Community School District and on the Board of Directors for the Center for Workers' Justice. Marcela Hurtado, boy, I can't get your name right. I want to give you a different name here. Hurtado is the co-founder of the Center for Workers' Justice of Eastern Iowa, or CWJ, where she serves as the elected president of the board. Recently, Marcela co-founded a collective for immigrants to launch their businesses in Iowa City, Emprendimiento Latino 5M. Ms. Hurtado has conducted community outreach within the Latino communities for nearly 10 years and has spoken about their interest in Eastern Iowa. She has made a positive impact in her community, from improving housing, health, access to healthy foods, increasing education support to children, redistributing stimulus checks to immigrants, and co-founding an organization aimed to help immigrants become entrepreneurs. And Paola Jaramillo leads the Johnson County's effort to promote and enhance diversity, equity, and inclusion as they permeate through local county government and the greater Johnson County community. Through programs, trainings, and services, she promotes an inclusive and diverse employee community in partnership with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee and ambassadors to embody the strategic plan. Paola holds a BS from the University of Iowa in Human Physiology with interest in mass communication and a minor in dance. Prior to joining the Board of Supervisors Office of Johnson County, she worked at the Coralville Community Food Pantry as the program's communication coordinator. Please join me in welcoming Elizabeth, Marcela, and Paolo, who will talk about Latinos in Iowa, planting seeds of prosperity, power, and progress.
So I really appreciate you all being here this evening. We are hoping to give you a little lens of some of the wonderful conversations that Marcela, Elizabeth, and I have been having in preparing for this. We've spent a lot of time discussing the work that we each do in our community. I think still gaps that we see out there and how to make them better. And these conversations sometimes happen over tortillas and chicharrones, but they all happen in Spanish. And so we are hoping to give you that window into our conversations in hoping to make this a really wonderful community for everyone. So we do have an interpreter joining us this evening. We will try to pace ourselves, but we really enjoy our time together, and our conversations are always very lively and fun. So I'm sorry if you missed something, and if you are able to understand in Spanish, congratulations. It's going to be a great night. So I think we're going to start by introducing ourselves, and we'll just get the conversation started.
Muy buenas noches. Mi nombre es Elizabeth Bernal. Primero que nada, gracias por estar aquí acompañándonos esta noche.
Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Bernal. Before anything else, I just want to say thank you for being here tonight and being with us.
Pues originalmente les quiero contar que vengo de México, en la Ciudad de México.
And originally, I want to tell you guys I come from the city of Mexico.
Llevo 20 años en Iowa, pero me costó como 10 años, casi 12 años en llegar a ser una ciudadana.
I am here in Iowa since 20 years ago, but it cost me almost 10 to 12 years to actually become a citizen here.
Tengo 5 hijos, madre soltera,
I have 5 kids, I'm a single mom,
pero amo Iowa, es mi casa.
but I love Iowa. It's my home.
Entonces, mi historia la quise hacer más corta. De los 5 hijos, a una la traje de México de 2 años.
And to make my story a little bit more shorter, out of my 5 kids, one of them I brought when she was 5 years old.
Cuando ella es mexicana, ella estudió en Estados Unidos. Aquí está la elementaria, la junior high, la high school. Y me da la noticia que va a estar en la Guardia Nacional.
She is, Mexican, and she studied here elementary school, junior school, high school, and then she recently told me that she's going to be joining the National Guard.
So, cuando me dijo que iba a ser la Guardia Nacional, tuve muchos sentimientos encontrados.
And when she told me she was going to become part of the National Guard, I had lots of mixed feelings.
Fue muy difícil como mamá, pero quería entenderla. Entonces tenía que abrir mi mente a la nueva cultura en Estados Unidos.
It was very harsh for me as a mom, but I also wanted to understand her. So I had to have an open mind and be aware that it's a new culture nowadays.
No fue tan fácil, pero ahorita ella está progresando, sale muy adelante en la Guardia Nacional. Perdón, me siento súper orgullosa de ella.
It's not been easy. I know that she's been progressing a lot in the National Guard, and I'm happy for her that she's progressing.
Actualmente tiene su familia y tengo una nieta.
She has her own family currently, and I have one granddaughter.
Mi segunda niña estudió en una escuela privada, en un colegio privado, y es trabajadora social.
My second girl, she studied at a private school, and ahora es trabajadora social. And now she is a social worker.
Ella se graduó con honores del colegio privado, algo que ella es la primera en nuestra generación de mi familia en salir y estudiar el colegio.
And she was the first one in her family to actually study in a private school and graduate with honors from a private school.
Eso, más orgullosa, entonces eso me hace aprender mucho de mis 2 primeras hijas.
That made me even more proud and made me want to, learn more about my first 2 daughters.
Mi tercera hija está, ahorita se casó y está estudiando ahorita en estos momentos en la Kirkwood.
My third daughter, she recently got married and is studying Kirkwood College.
Y tengo mi cuarta hija está en la Universidad de Iowa estudiando business.
And my fourth daughter is in the University of Iowa studying business.
Y tengo un muchacho en la high school. Y todos ellos me han hecho aprender demasiado y ser quien soy gracias a ellos.
And my fifth boy is currently in high school. They've all taught me, and I've learned so much from them.
Pues eso me llevó a aprender demasiado y a hacer muchas cosas en Iowa. En Iowa casi no hablo mucho de las cosas que hago.
And then this motivated me to start learning more, doing more, and I don't usually talk a lot about all the things I do here in Iowa.
Gracias a ellos yo pude hacer un gran líder o ser una líder en Iowa.
Thanks to them, I became a great leader here in Iowa.
y no sabía que tenía ese don de ser un líder en Iowa.
And I didn't know I had that gift of being a leader here in Iowa.
Mucha gente se conduce a mí y me dice, es que tú eres el pegante de la comunidad.
And a lot of people refer to me as the glue that sticks together the community.
Pues entonces tengo que, mi obligación, me siento obligada a tener algo, a trabajar más duro, a aprender más, para yo poder seguirles dando el ejemplo a la comunidad.
And therefore I feel, obligated on learning more, working harder to bring all these benefits to the community.
Y pues esto me ha hecho trabajar más en Iowa, ser más, pues selecta en lo que aprendo porque me ha costado demasiado.
And this makes me want to work more and be selective on the things that I am learning.
Y las cosas que, porque tenemos muchas barreras a lo largo del camino, no, se oye muy bonito.
And we have lots of barriers during the way. It's not really pretty.
Pero es bien difícil para mí al llegar a Iowa o a Estados Unidos sin tener el idioma, sin tener una educación y pues la ventaja de que tendría que ser los dos personas para mi familia.
And it was very hard for me coming here to Iowa for the first time without having the language, without having the education, and having to be both parents for my kids.
Pero gracias a todas esas barreras aprendimos y estamos aquí tratando de servir a la comunidad.
But thanks to those barriers, we have learned, and now we are here trying to serve our community.
Hola a todos, gracias por estar aquí.
Hi to everyone, and thank you for being here.
Mi nombre es Marcela Hurtado.
My name is Marcela Hurtado.
Yo también soy una mamá, tengo 3 hijos.
I am also a mother. I have 3 kids.
Y tengo aquí ya 20 años.
And I've been here 20 years already.
Y algo que nosotras platicamos
And something that we talk a lot
era,
between us.
¿por qué nosotros empezamos a organizar?
Why did we started to organize?
En lo personal, yo empecé por problemas en mi propia comunidad.
And personally, I started because of problems in my own community.
Yo viví mucho tiempo en un parque de móviles que se llamaba Forest View.
I lived a long time in a mobile park called Forestville.
Y uno de los problemas que había era que solo había una entrada, era la única entrada, salida.
And one of the many problems we had there, the entrance was also the only exit there.
Y siempre había como policías como siempre en espera de la comunidad latina que bajara por ahí.
And there was always police officers waiting for the Hispanic community to come down there.
Y eso era algo que la comunidad estaba como con miedo, con temor.
And that was something that the community was afraid of, scared of.
Ese fue un problema que llevó a que nos organizáramos para ver realmente qué estaba pasando, hablar con la policía para ver qué podíamos hacer.
And that was one of the reasons that started us to get together and organize and say, okay, we need to talk to the police, find out what is going on here.
Y también algo que les comenté, yo llevo 20 años aquí y algo que yo les decía a ellas era, en una ocasión fuimos como organización a pedir recursos a una iglesia para que nos donaran dinero.
And like I said, I've been here 20 years, and one time I told her, let's do like an organization and then go to a church and, ask for resources there.
Y estábamos ahí, obvio, alguien había que estaba interpretándonos porque nosotros no hablábamos inglés. Y la persona que estaba ahí, que era alguien, nos dijo, ¿cómo es posible que ustedes llevan tiempo aquí y no sepan hablar inglés?
And when we were there, of course, we had an interpreter because we didn't know the language. And that person told us, how is it possible you've been here for a long time and you still don't know English?
Yo iba con otra persona que tiene una niña con una disabilidad.
And I was with another person that had a girl with a disability.
Yo también tuve un niño que nació con un problema de corazón.
I also gave birth to a kid that had a heart problem.
Y como madres, nuestro pensamiento no era, oh, voy a ir a aprender inglés, voy a ir a hacer esto. Como madres, nuestra prioridad era nuestros hijos, cómo crecer, cómo poder ayudarlos para que no fueran los mejores, pero que se mantuvieran a un nivel académico.
And as a mom, our mentality is not, oh, I just need to go and learn English now. My priority was my kids, making sure that they were all right, and how to help them to grow so that they can become not the best in society, but at least like in the same level as society.
Eso hizo que creáramos, porque claro, ustedes van a decir, clases de inglés hay en muchos lugares. Sí, pero cuando tú tienes un niño con una disabilidad, necesitas a alguien que lo cuide, que esté al pendiente de ellos. Y hay lugares que dan clases, pero no te dan servicio de cuidado de niños.
And then that pushed us, to create these English classes. But when we talk about, English classes, as moms, we have kids. We need someone to watch over the kids while we're in the classes. And so many of these classes didn't have like a place where we could leave our kids being watched.
Y eso es algo que nosotros en el Centro de Justicia Laboral empezamos a hacer. Empezamos a crear programas como clases de inglés para adultos y obvio dábamos cuidado de niños, clases de costura, también dábamos cuidado de niños porque sabemos que esas son las barreras por las que la comunidad luego no llega a los recursos que ya existen.
And then, therefore, in the Justice Center, we came up with the idea of creating English classes for adults, including daycare, also sewing classes for adults, including daycare, because as part of the community, we knew that a big barrier for us on learning English was that we didn't have nobody to watch over the kids.
Entonces, no es que quisiéramos volver a inventar la rueda, ya había programas, pero cuando nosotros conocemos a la comunidad sabemos cuál realmente es su necesidad y en base a su necesidad creamos los programas, trabajamos para suplir esa necesidad.
And it's not like we just wanted to reinvent the whole program, but, we are part of that community. We know what are the necessities and the barriers for that community, so then we just, make them part of the program now.
Y a raíz de todas esas barreras que en lo personal nos vimos encontrando, que nos tocaba a nosotros mismos o a nuestras familias o a la propia comunidad, es que yo empecé a organizar.
And based upon all these barriers that me and the other community were facing is when we started, to create this organization.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Yo soy Paola Jaramillo Guayara. Yo nací en Iowa City.
And I am Paola Jaramillo Collera. I was born here in Iowa City.
Hace unos días, fui a buscar mi récord de nacimiento en el edificio donde ahora trabajo, que fue algo especial. Ayer.
And yesterday, I went to the center where you pick up like your birth certificates, and now is that the place where I'm currently working at.
Pero yo, como nací aquí, crecí en Colombia desde que tenía 3 meses hasta que tenía 5 años. Entonces aprendí a hablar español primero.
And even though I was born here, I was raised in Colombia when I was 3 months up till I was 5 years. So that's why I catch the Spanish language first.
Desafortunadamente creo que no lo considero mi lengua ahora primaria que uso todos los días, pero sí me gusta que todavía puedo hablar en español, ¿cierto?
Unfortunately, I don't consider it like my primary language now, but I'm still grateful that I know it and I can speak it with others.
Entonces, como yo crecí en esta comunidad, yo soy hija de una madre soltera que me dio todo lo posible que pudo para yo poder salir adelante.
And since I was born in this community, I was also the daughter of a single mother that gave me everything she could so I could, be successful.
Y también entiendo mi privilegio, mucho por el color de mi piel, pero también que cuando yo estaba creciendo, mi mamá era estudiante de doctorado de la Universidad de Iowa.
And I also understand my privilege because of my skin color, but at that time, my mother was studying
un doctorado.
A doctor's degree in the University of Iowa.
Entonces yo crecí con libros, con maestros, con mucho conocimiento en esta biblioteca y sé que tuve oportunidades que muchas veces otras personas en nuestras comunidades no se les fue ofrecido.
So, you know, I grew up with a lot of books, teachers, knowledge around me, and, you know, I have the privilege of being here in the library and learning so much stuff, and I knew this wasn't something that everybody had access to.
Y creo que la primera vez que realmente lo viví, que me encontré con eso, fue cuando estaba estudiando at West High School.
And the first time that I encountered this was when I was studying in the West High School.
And un estudiante que era mexicano me preguntó que yo por qué no pasaba más tiempo con los otros niños latinos en el colegio.
And then a Mexican student approached me and asked me, why wasn't I spending more time with the, you know, Hispanic students or community there?
Y en eso realmente entendí que lo que yo había vivido, mis experiencias siendo lo que yo era en Iowa City, era diferente de realmente mucha de la comunidad latina que estaba al mi alrededor. Words are hard.
And that moment made me realize that, you know, there was a difference in the way that I grew up in here in the Iowa City, and, you know, that gave me kind of like an advantage over them.
Entonces, cuando empecé a trabajar at the Coralville Community Food Pantry, yo sabía que tenía un recurso, que era el lenguaje, podía hablar en español, que nadie más podía hacer, que también trabajaba ahí. Entonces, yo tenía la posibilidad de conectar a la comunidad latina con los servicios que nosotros proveemos en esa organización.
And when I started working in the Coralville Food Pantry, I realized that I had an advantage compared to the others. I knew the Spanish language that was going to help me, you know, connect and communicate with the Hispanic community and let them know about these resources.
Y creo que algo que nos hace muy especial de nuestra cultura es que nosotros somos muy de gente, ¿cierto? Nuestra comunidad, nuestros alrededores, la persona, ese calor de humanos, de seres humanos, es algo que nos conecta mucho.
And something that I say that connects us, the Hispanic community, and kind of like makes us a little bit different is that we are very loving for people. We are very warm, very giving, that humanity is very present there.
Entonces yo empecé a hablar mucho con la gente que venía a acudir servicios de la Food Pantry y conocí mucha gente, escuché muchas historias y también aprendí de muchas de las barreras que la gente estaba teniendo que enfrentar para realmente solo sobrevivir en nuestra comunidad.
And there in the food pantry, I started talking to everybody, getting to know people, know their stories, hear about them, and also learn about the barriers that they were facing in this community.
Y como Marcela y Elizabeth han dicho, de ver esas necesidades, de ver esas barreras, me sentí como llevada a tratar de crear soluciones, de crear programas que realmente le responden e impactan a la comunidad latina en las maneras que ellos lo necesitan.
And like Marcela said, when I saw these barriers, these necessities, that put like a drive on me to start creating programs that would actually respond to them and help them and benefit them in the way they can.
Y creo que en hacer esos programas uno también aprende que hay muchas barreras. Se siente algunas veces casi incalzable poder ayudar en su totalidad.
And also, meanwhile, we are creating the programs, we can see more clearly like the barriers, and it feels to a point where, you know, it's kind of unreachable.
Ya. Entonces, realmente esa es la razón que terminé organizando, fue que realmente vi esas necesidades y me sentí llevada a tratar de ayudar y también de saber que nuestra historia familiar de raíces en Colombia han pasado por muchas barreras. No fue solo aquí en Estados Unidos que han habido barreras, pero en nuestros países también a nuestras familias lo han sudado, lo han llorado y nosotras estamos aquí por eso. Sorry. I don't remember what I said. I'll try to bring it back. Claro, tranquila. Mira, te doy
I'm
esta
gonna write it down
papel.
so I don't forget it.
Yeah, here. Te doy esta papel. Te regalo papel. Yeah, so a lot of what drove me to try to organize and help in the community was seeing this need, but also knowing that in our family history, we had lived through those barriers. We had to work. And I think something that we all connects the three of us is it's not just the barriers that we had to overcome when we arrived in the United States or that our families had to overcome when they arrived, but it's really all that they've overcome for generations in our home countries, in our homelands. And the reason that we get to stand here is their ability and our family's ability to have overcome those barriers for generations and allow us a lot of the opportunities that have been afforded to us. But something that I think is important that Marcela and Elizabeth touched on was that the organizing that they did went really well. They had a lot of wins. And so I would love to hear about the things that went well, all of the wonderful things they've done for this community, because I'm lucky that I get to be a leader in this community because you all created space for women and for people like me who are coming up in this community. So I would love to hear about that.
Bueno, una de las cosas que me llevó a quedarme en Iowa, yo creo que es para ser líder, pero crear líderes. Es la forma correcta, creo que, porque siempre he pensado, si yo algún día no estoy, ¿quién va a seguir? Si yo no lo hago, tiene que haber alguien que lo haga, porque si no, siguen ahí. Entonces, es algo que crear líderes en la comunidad es inspirándolos.
And another reason that also made me stick to the community, you know, one was being freedom or being free and becoming a leader, but also creating other leaders, because I thought to myself, if I am not here, then who will continue? Who will do it next? So that was one of the things that also motivate me on being a leader, but also creating leaders.
Y como la introducción, cuando nos introdujeron, dice, estoy en la mesa directiva del Centro Laboral de Justicia. Trabajamos mucho, Marcela, cuando estamos en esa área. También estoy en el Prairie Lands Freedom Funds, que antes era, soy una de las cofundadoras de ese lugar o de esa organización en las elecciones de Trump.
Okay. And like the introduction said, I also worked in the Center of Justice for the Workers, and I worked a lot there. Also, I was in the Freedom House?
Prairie Lands Freedom Fund.
Oh, yeah. Prairie Lands Freedom Fund.
Prairie Lands Freedom Fund. I was also one of the co-founders there, and I do have to say all this happened because of Trump.
So, eso es algo positivo que salió de Trump. No lo tomen a mal, pero hay que ver oportunidades donde se puede todo el tiempo. No hay que ver obstáculos. Mi meta es ver las oportunidades y quitar los obstáculos.
And that was one of the good things that we got out of Trump, you know. I always say that we have to look and see opportunities, not focus on seeing the barriers, but seeing the opportunities that are present there.
Esta fundación ayuda a las personas a pagar inmigración, y veo caras conocidas que nos han ayudado al voluntariado acerca de pagar las fianzas que tienen las personas detenidas por inmigración.
Okay. And this program basically was helping us in the way that they were helping to bail out and pay the immigration fees that they needed to be paid in order to be bailed out.
También he estado trabajando, llevo mi 5º año trabajando en la escuela. Estoy creando, la posición que tengo ahorita es Culture Liaison for Latinos and Hispanic Family.
O si no, yo voy a decir, y entonces tú dices el nombre de... Okay. And this is my 5th year in the school. Currently, I am working on creating the
position of the Culture Liaison for Latino and Hispanic community in Iowa City. So I've been seeing all the schools in Iowa City, and I'm the only person to do 6 hours at the school district and helping the families basically learning what they need to be learning about navigating the school system. I don't understand. I've been learning a lot too, but for me it's more easy than for the families who just arrived and they have a lot of barriers already. So it's something that it's creating me to learn more about it and be more curious about it. So to be more human person and kind person with others and looking around who you are here so you can be watching and who's your neighbor. Maybe they can need some help in the school system if you know more. I don't have to be the person. Everyone can do that. So that's, I think, one of the barriers that we can actually be working and helping others in the community. So I tell a person that the community is when you're willing to leave the village. And I learned that in my country. I know that I cannot bring my village here, but I can leave other village where I already feel that I'm in the community. So that's, I think, what I can see for myself to be continue and be inspired myself to be working, to keeping helping in the community and created more people that be aware about what's going on around you. Just be aware and kind person. And that's what I'm doing right now. And I was an open hairline. Unfortunately, I have to leave because I have to decide which I can do, which it's getting too much for me. Like Paola said, we're creating a lot because we've seen and we have already those experience. And that's where we create, like the barriers up there, but sometimes it's too much for one person. Marcela is the same person going to different meetings. Myself is going to the same person. So we need more support. We have like more people up there. In Open Hairland, I created a group of leadership that they hope, they know, they don't know the language, but they have a lot of experience, a lot enrichment culture that we can learn from. And that's what I think, for my part, it's want to show them that they can do more than they think. But also on the other side, we need to be more respect and listen to them so that way they be able to come out and say, hey, I'm here. I know that you show me that you listen to me. Let's work together. So we have people there, but we have to be open mind to be learning and be aware about them. And they have a lot richness to give us. And I'm sorry. Just go.
Yo le iba a decir que la pellizque. ¿Sí ve? Ella dijo que la pellizcaran.
Sí, es cierto. Regreso. Entonces, hay muchísimo trabajo que hacer. Necesitamos el apoyo de todas las áreas, de todos los lugares. Tenemos muchísimas barreras como familias de color, latinas, y pues los privilegios que muchos tienen, muchos no los tienen, y muchos son afortunados y otros muy desafortunados, pero todos tenemos problemas, pero la propia experiencia nos hace renacer otra vez a hacer que queremos hacer algo.
Gracias. Pues sí.
Todos sí, lo voy a decir. So, with that being said, there's still a lot of work to get done. There's still a lot of things that we need to do. We need the support that we can get. There are still a lot of barriers present. Families of colors, Hispanic, Latinos, and there still need a lot to get done. It's that same experience that helps you, you know, make things be reborn in a different, better way.
Ahora sí. Okay. Bueno, ustedes han escuchado a Elizabeth. La verdad, tenemos varios como sombreros que nos quitamos uno y nos ponemos el otro y nos quitamos el otro y así. Somos fundadoras del Centro de Justicia Laboral que ha cumplido 11 aniversario. Yo la espero.
Okay. And Like Elizabeth was saying, we have lots of hats. You know, we take off one hat, we put another one. And like she mentioned, we are the founders of the Justice Centers for the Workers. We are celebrating our 11th anniversary.
En esa organización, la misión es educar a la comunidad y empoderar a la comunidad. Y realmente hemos logrado con éxito varias campañas, entre ellas fue el lograr una ID comunitaria, que por X razón la comunidad no tenía cómo identificarse.
Mm-hmm. And one of our purposes with this is to educate and to empower the community. We've been able to achieve successfully lots of programs, like, for example, the ID community, because we were part of this community, but we had no way to identify ourselves.
Y algo que empezamos, obvio no ahora, pero cuando lo empezamos para mí fue increíble porque nos dijeron, vamos a empezar a trabajar con robo de salario. Yo decía, ¿ay, aquí existe eso? No creo que solo en mi país. Bueno, hasta ahorita hemos recaudado más de $200,000 en, pues prácticamente eran salarios que habían sido robados, no les estaban pagando.
And something that, you know, it already started, we didn't start it, but we continued, was we were invested on getting to know and learning more about when they steal your salary. And we thought, is that happening here in Iowa? But yes, it was happening. We gather around $200,000 worth of, you know, people not being paid for their work. They got their salary stolen.
Y es increíble porque aprendes muchísimo. El robo de salario tiene diferentes caras. Cuando la comunidad no sabe ni siquiera leer su propia colilla de cheque, de ahí ya están haciendo un robo, o simplemente el patrón no quiere pagarles y les dice háganle como quieran. Entonces toca que entrar y ayudar a la comunidad.
Okay. And we learned a lot about this. It has different phases to it, you know, from not being able to read and interpret your own pay stub to the boss just saying, I simply don't want to pay you. And that's where we started to came in and came through for them.
También hace como 3-4 años empezamos un mercado que se llama Diversity Market.
And also 4 years ago, we started this market called the Diversity Market.
Lo empezamos en el lado sur de Iowa, pues primero para levantar esa comunidad, pero también para ayudar a las personas que quieren de alguna manera emprender un negocio.
And we started this at the south side of Iowa. You know, we did this to lift up the community, but also to provide a way for entrepreneurship for those who wanted it.
Obvio, me tocó a mí organizar a mi comunidad, la latina.
And of course, it was me that had to organize my Latino community.
Entonces, este año fue nuestro tercer año con éxito. Cada día hay más vendedores latinos de otras comunidades también. Y es ayudarles como a tener sus permisos del condado, cómo sacar sus self-service para que puedan manejar alimentos. Hay muchas cosas que la comunidad necesita y que podemos ayudarle.
And this has been going on for 3 years successfully. We have every time more and more people that are selling, of course, more Latino community that are joining and being entrepreneurs. And we help them in the ways like, for example, obtaining the permits they need, helping them how to get the self-service that they need so they could get all the things going on for themselves.
Al mismo tiempo que estábamos trabajando con Diversity Market, 5 mujeres latinas, aclaro, empezamos a ver cómo poder emprender nosotros nuestro propio negocio.
And at the same time that we were working on the diversity market, also 5 Latino women got together and they started thinking like how we can do to make a business for ourselves.
Yo sé que para muchos, quizás de ustedes, hay cosas tan obvias, tan como esto, tan fácil que fue, pero para nosotros como comunidad latina, que no conocemos el sistema, la barrera del idioma y otras barreras, para nosotros no fue tan fácil.
And I know that for many of you, these things look like very simple, obvious, and easy. But, you know, us thinking as Latina women that we don't know a lot of the language, we don't know a lot of the systems, we don't know like the way of communicating, it seemed pretty hard.
Dos amigas mías, una de ellas quería emprender su negocio de bakery, pero ella decía, no tengo para un local, quiero empezar desde mi casa, ¿cómo le hacemos? Y empezar a investigar de qué manera ella podía, con las leyes, obvio, tener su propio negocio desde su casa.
And two of my friends, they wanted to start their business of baking, but you know, they were like, I need a local to start this, so if I don't have one, I will have to start in my house. So then we started investigating, you know, the ways of how she could start this legally, following the law, in order for her to do it.
Logramos que ella tuviera su negocio desde su casa. Ahora ya tiene, no nada más en su casa, sino tiene un local en el sur de Iowa y ella ya tiene ahí su venta. Está muy contenta, está feliz.
Check out Cachua Cakes.
And we did it, we achieved it. We helped her start her business from her home. And nowadays, she not only has the business from her home, but she also has a local in the south part of Iowa. And she's getting them sales, is pretty successful.
Mi otra amiga, yo quiero un restaurante, ¿cómo le hacemos? ¿Dónde y cómo? Bueno, no quiero pasarme todo el tiempo aquí, pero lo que yo quiero decirles es, todo eso nos llevó a crear Emprendimiento Latino FIEM.
Emprendimiento Latino?
FIEM.
And I had another friend that she wanted to start a restaurant, and she had the questions like, how do I start it? How do I do this? And I don't want to keep talking a lot, but all of these factors was what pushed us to create the Latin Entrepreneurship FM.
Nació esta organización precisamente por todas las barreras que ellas dos tuvieron para poder emprender su negocio. Ahora mi amiga Teresa, que es la mexicana, le estoy dando promoción.
Check out La Mexicana.
Tiene su propio restaurante en Coralville, ya lleva 2 años con mucho éxito, muy buena comida. Y ella está en esta organización porque dice, todo lo que yo pasé, yo quiero que mi experiencia le sirva a alguien más.
Oh, okay. And, you know, based upon all these barriers, that's what pushed us to be this program and have this program be born. And nowadays, my Mexican friend, Teresa, she has a successful restaurant in Coralville. It's been running successfully for 2 years now. And that's why she's also a part of this program, because she said, I want my experience and what I had to go through to be, you know, a help for others. I don't want them to struggle as much as I did.
Y Emprendimiento Latino FIEM es porque somos 5 mujeres, somos todas mexicanas y todos empiezan nuestros nombres con M.
And the Latin Entrepreneurship FM, it's because we are all 5 women. We are from Mexico, and all of our names start with an M.
También estamos como, es una organización bebé nueva, estamos empezando y queremos abarcar muchas cosas. Entendemos que no es fácil porque tenemos diferentes gorros o sombreros, pero lo importante es que ves cómo la gente realmente está logrando lo que en su momento soñó, pensó y ahora está aterrizado su proyecto.
And this is still a baby organization, and we want to tackle lots of things, but it's not easy because, like I said, we have lots of hats, different roles, but it's something good to see how, you know, they are achieving it and they're making their dreams come true and making it successfully.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Okay, I will speak in English to maybe speed this up because we have lots to talk about. What have I done? Let me think. I think my first really exciting moment that I felt like I was making an impact in the community was during COVID, through my work at the county, and actually with the wonderful help of Marcela and Elizabeth and other Latino community leaders. We were able to provide over 750 community members with both COVID shots. And these community members were not only limited English proficiency speakers, but they were perhaps undocumented, underdocumented. They did not have health insurance, and we were actually able to coincide with Johnson County Public Health and New Cara. And it was a great experience, not only because we knew we were able to provide our community with shots that were gonna change lives, but also we were able to teach the New Cara team and the public health team about a lot of the barriers that our community faced. That it wasn't that people maybe didn't want to get a shot or didn't want to, go get medication. It was that they didn't have access to it. There was no way for them to get there. And so that was a really great win and one of my definitely proudest moments. And then when I shifted into my new role at the county, I think the ability that I had in having been connected to the community really allowed me to pick programming and build projects that are going to continue to hopefully change the way our community, our Latino community, is being served by our local government, and allowing spaces for our community to come to local government, because the government is here to serve you. It's not the other way around. And I think a lot of the time our communities, not just the Latino community, but immigrant communities, don't know that, and they also don't know how to approach government because they have backgrounds and there's baggage and there's knowledge from their own countries of how those systems work. And much like Elizabeth's work, we need to do a better job of helping our community navigate our systems here. And part of that was through the Direct Assistance Program, which again was a wonderful ARPA-funded, federal-funded program. We were able to coincide with LULAC and Open Heartland to help community members apply for the $1,400 checks. But in that, it was also an opportunity for my staff in particular, our staff, my colleagues and coworkers, to see and talk to the community and see that need and understand that community IDs are an important program and we should continue to invest in things like that. And so it's always a two-way street, and I think that's something that makes me really happy about the work that we all do, because as important as it is to bring our communities into spaces that they haven't been welcomed in before, it's also partly on us to make sure that those spaces are welcoming and they are inclusive and they're prepared to bring people that are diverse in thought, in color, in all sorts of ways into those spaces. So I know that has opened the door for a lot of the work that we do. But something that I think both Marcela and Elizabeth touched on is the fact that we've been able to build kind of this power and this recognition by the ways we chose to show up for our community, by knowing that the community could recur to us and that we would try to deliver one way or another, so that they knew that they could count on us. And that's a power that we get to hold on to and that we get to enjoy. And as Marcela said last night, nadie nos lo puede quitar, nadie lo puede venir a cobrar. Nobody can come charge us for it. Nobody can say, I got you there. It's something that we've been able to build on our own, on ourselves, on each other, on the shoulders of each other. And sitting at this table, actually, and being part of this panel, I think is also a huge showing of that power that we've been able to build. And that power has also created social power, which I think is what we're going to talk about next. But it's things like 5M, it's things like Elizabeth, asking the school district and knowing that she needs more support, that the 6 hours that she gets at the school district is not enough to provide for those families. But el poder del capital social, no sé si una de las dos quiere hablar de eso. Marcela, dale. ¿No?
Pues a raíz de que creamos este emprendimiento latino, pues realmente hemos visto que hay muchas cosas que ya están hechas. No queremos, vuelvo a repetir, no queremos volver a inventar la rueda, solo que queremos que la información llegue a nuestra comunidad en su propio idioma, que lo pueda entender, porque a veces aunque está en español, hay cosas que no te hacen sentido, no machan, dijera mi hijo.
And based on the program of entrepreneurship for Latins, that's when I started to realize that there were things that were already, done and made. Like I said, I don't want to redo them, but they weren't like on Spanish, the language that they understood. And it's hard when it's not in the language because sometimes people don't even understand it in their own language when it's written. Imagine in another one.
Y realmente crear este poder ha sido muy difícil porque siempre estamos con muchas barreras, pero podemos decir que aunque vayamos paso a paso, lento pero seguro, vamos ganando terreno. Ahora por ejemplo, como Emprendimiento Latino FAE, nos invitan a reuniones de desarrollo, de cosas que antes pues sí estábamos, pero no tan como, ven, siéntate aquí, ¿no? Entonces, ahora podemos estar como más sentados en una mesa para poder discutir más cosas y ver realmente cómo, qué tomar para que nuestra comunidad siga creciendo.
Okay. And creating power with this has been kind of a hard thing because of all the barriers that we've had, but we've created progress, little by little, slow but secure progress, and it has opened up doors for us to be a little invade more territory because now we are being invited to reunions for developing new things, and now we see ourselves sitting at the tables where we weren't sitting before, getting that access to discuss things and be part of discussions that we weren't being part of before. And this helps us for growth as well.
Pero queremos que también en esas reuniones haya más personas igual, con este color, para que puedan ir creciendo también. Nosotras, como decía Elizabeth, estamos en varias cosas y a veces no, por lo mismo, tenemos que dejar algo que realmente sí importa, pero pues te toca dejar algo para poder seguir con otras cosas. Y queremos que más personas se sumen a apoyar a la comunidad latina.
And in these reunions, we would like to see more of us, more like our color, our people, so that they can also grow too. And another thing, like we said, we have lots of hats that we put on and take off, and there's moments where we had to decide we will have to put a stop or set this aside to take care of this other thing. So that's why I believe we really need more support of the community and our community as well to help us tackle all these things.
Yo veo hacia atrás, I don't speak very well English, but I understand a little more than I speak. Y veo el progreso, tanto en lo personal, tanto en mi comunidad. Y eso siempre, porque a veces he querido tirar la toalla, decir ya, no más, está gastando demasiado de mí, pero cuando veo que alguien viene y me dice, bueno, eso fue apenas, me dijo, ¿sabe qué? Dice, por usted, dice, empezar a organizar, logramos esto, o gané esto, o cuando fue lo de las trailas del 80 que la ciudad tuvo que darles dinero de reembolso para que se reubicaran. Alguien vino y me dijo, gracias porque usted empezó a organizar. Cuando tú escuchas esas cosas, te levanta el ánimo. No con orgullo, sino decir, estoy bien, voy bien en el camino, estoy bien, voy a seguir porque realmente estoy tocando a alguien. Con una persona que yo toque, ya logré mi objetivo. Y si toco a más, me fue bien.
Okay, and looking back at all these things, I see the progress, the personal progress, but also the progress in the community. And, sometimes it's very demanding of me. I wanted to sometimes maybe quit, but it's because of the people that come to you and say, because you organized this, we did this. Because you did this, we want this. Like, for example, the situation with the trailer housing back in the 80s, right? back in the 80s, and they had to reimburse that money to people to have them be relocated. And some of the people came to me and were like, oh, thank you for helping us because we got this. And it's those moments and those words where, you know, it lifts my spirit, not in a prideful way, but in a way that you say, okay, I'm doing something good. You know, I'm reaching the people. And if I just touch one, I know that I could touch many more.
And I think that point is particularly important because it's your ability, our ability to have moved community, and not just our own. It's been us being able to move communities of power, people that have power in our community one way or another, and having brought them along on the journey, had them understand why these things were important. That's the real power in social capital. And it's not a bargaining chip by any means, but it's this idea that because we've been able to bring the community together and we've been able to speak on their behalf and see their needs and push those needs to the forefront is what has allowed us to create this power in numbers that we talk a lot about when we talk a lot about community. But it's this particular uplifting spirit of people know who they can count on and why they can count on them. And that in itself is something that is very special for us as community leaders to know that we've created those networks in our community that feel that way about us. And much to Marcela's point, we hope that other people, and Elizabeth as well, we hope we're able to uplift other people and grow their power and be part of the social capital that we've created because it has the possibility to make a difference in the community.
Yes, I agree with Paola, and I just want to add it that it's actually it's a hard path to go, especially as Latino, to get to the power. And people thinking, oh, it's a power, what can make? Actually makes a lot of difference because people had education and easy power. Have money, easy power. We only have to develop our voice to be here. That's the power that we've been working on it. And I think that's what I need to tell people, like, you need to hear, learn to hear, so that way we can, that it's also like to affecting in our community. And some people don't understand that power doesn't mean the same to me and you. It's power, it's very different. So every single word that you have is different from my perspective because my experience to survive is different than your experience for surviving. So that it's basically really, for me, strong, the word power, but actually in some way it's a power that we have to work and win, sometimes lose, but we still gain some power. 1%, 0%, it's a power that we can pass to other in the communities and say, hey, we hear us. And it's our voice, not only that we want to give to hear, it's community Latino behind us that wants to be here too. And they do through us because they have a lot of barriers, so they don't have to know how they can pass that barrier to get the power.
And I think to that point, speaking of progress, something that we also wanted to touch on, we have seen a lot of progress in our community. I think the fact that we're sitting here shows progress, the work that each of the organizations has done. But I think also for me, I understand how much progress you both have created in our community along with others, because when I walk into spaces and people know that I know Marcela or Elizabeth and that I count them as part of my people, I am suddenly taken more seriously. And so I also know that I'm riding on the coattails of the work and the power that they have created for themselves. And so I think as a younger leader in the community, having seen the work that you do, I also understand that I need to continue to build my own power, but also the honest look at you all have done this work for us. You have created paths, I think, in a lot of places that perhaps we haven't. And that's because of the work that you all have done. And also it shouldn't be as hard, right? We shouldn't have to wait for people to create these paths. We should be more willing to look around and say someone has something to say. Someone that looks different than me, someone that thinks differently than I do has something to say, and there's power in that. And that is important too when we think of the community as a whole, of everyone that's listening and sitting in this room and is going to listen later, is what role do you also play in creating social capital and allowing these spaces for women like us, for women all over the world in general, but people who are considered different, who have been othered in so many ways. What do they bring to the table? Because that diversity is important, and that inclusion in the community creates this progress that you have been creating for 20 years, and that we will hopefully continue to create for the next 100. But something that I do want to highlight that Marcela spoke about earlier is measuring progress. And a lot of the time in communities, we tend to measure progress against each other. It becomes a zero-sum game of I'm going to measure every community with this one measuring stick, and if suddenly this one is falling behind or isn't matching up, well, something must be wrong. And the reality is that each of those communities has different lived experiences, they've had different barriers, and so we cannot use the same measuring stick to compare progress in communities. We have to understand their lived experiences, the barriers that they've had to overcome to get power, to create community, to create networks, and use that as a basis to help them further flourish. But I do think that's important, Marcela, and I don't know si tienes algo más para añadir de progreso.
Pues no sé si sea de progreso, pero yo voy a decir algo
importante.
Con todo el tiempo que vivimos aquí, por ejemplo, Elizabeth, llevamos 20 años viviendo aquí, hemos creado muchas conexiones, no tanto también con la comunidad, con las personas que están sentadas, que tienen un puesto de poder en la ciudad, pero también eso nos ha... Perdón.
So I'm not sure if I'm going to say it's about progress, but, with all the time that we've been here, we also had the time to create these connections, not only with the people of the community, but also with the people that have a role of power too.
Cuando llega alguna necesidad que sabemos que está afectando a nuestra comunidad, nosotros sabemos dónde, de alguna manera, dónde acudir o cómo movernos, porque ya conocemos, o más bien, no sé quién nos puso el nombre de líderes, pero la gente nos conoce a nosotros, nos confía a nosotros y puede llamar a Elizabeth, puede llamar a Marcela porque sabe que está segura y que vamos a poder, yo no podré solucionar su problema, pero buscamos la manera de solucionarlo.
And, when there's necessity in the community, they also come to us because they know that we know where to go. We know what we have to do in order to help him. And I don't know who gave us the name of leaders, but basically people see us as those leaders where if they need something, they know they can count on us. They know that they can call us and we will be there for them. Maybe not to give them or to solve their problems, but to provide the help they need in order to solve their problems.
Y algo que en lo personal yo tengo un lema, si hay una injusticia para una persona, nosotros deberíamos de verlo como una injusticia también para nosotros. O sea, no solo porque esa persona está sufriendo algo, le están haciendo algo, ¿qué me importa? Ay, que siga. Debemos de tomarlo como es de nosotros. ¿Por qué? Porque, por ejemplo, Elizabeth tiene sus hijos aquí, ya aquí nacieron, crecieron, mis hijos también. Mis hijos son parte de esta comunidad. Maybe sus hijos y mis hijos se conocen y son amigos y están en un concierto o a la iglesia. O sea, son parte de esta comunidad. Entonces, si le pasa algo a una persona, nos debemos de sentir mal nosotros también porque somos una parte, somos una comunidad. Se supone que somos inclusivos. ¿Cómo es posible que algo está pasando en la comunidad y nosotros no nos sentamos afectados?
And something that I say is kind of like my personal slogan is that if there's an injustice for one, it's an injustice for everybody. You know, if something happens around you, it's not just, oh, that is happening, it has nothing to do with me. No, like it is related to you because it's happening in your same community. Like Elizabeth said, her kids were raised in this community. My kids were raised in this community too. They could go to concerts together, parks together. And if something happens to one, it happens to all of the community as well. Because that's the point of being a community, you know, we're together, we stick together. So if you see something that is happening, don't just be like, oh, it's not happening to me, I'm fine, it's happening only to them. No, because it is happening to you too, and it affects you too. We have to be more inclusive and a little bit less careless.
Si estamos sentados aquí es precisamente para poder impactar sus vidas, que realmente ustedes puedan decir, oh, yo quiero ayudar, yo quiero apoyar, o cómo puedo hacerlo. Queremos realmente llegar a ustedes, pero con el corazón de que esto es lo que hacemos, lo hacemos porque queremos a nuestra comunidad. Amamos tanto a nuestra comunidad que dejamos muchas cosas de hacer para poder apoyar a la comunidad. Entonces, lo único es seguir creciendo y seguir apoyando a la comunidad.
And that's one of the reasons that we are sitting here in front of you tonight, is because we want to create impact on you. We want to hear people saying, like, how can I help? Like, what do I have to do to help? What can I provide to help? Because it's for the community, and I'm part of this community. I love this community, and I also set some things aside of myself to start doing more in helping the community, because I only have one thing on my mind, is growth, and it's progress.
Well, progress, I think we can do all together, and you can do the difference teaching how to progress other people, your neighbor. I'm not asking only for like Latino community. I think it's our community in general needs all support in any ways. I've been seeing social media. It's been really nowadays the way they communicate it. So it's just pass around whatever it's your knowledge to teaching other people. Some organization, they really need some support teaching English to others, and some people like to learn Spanish, so also that can help, and you guys can make the difference, but also help people to be more progress in other different areas. It's a huge, for myself, it's a huge context and progress, but it's not about only the values, it's education, and people never have an opportunity to be in an education path when, like my example, it's my daughter who's first generation, and I maybe have the opportunity, but kind of like really hard to thinking about it's eating, feeding my kids or taking classes. So it's very experience different than others who are privileged, that they just don't have to worry about anything. And those first generation also, they have a lot in their shoulder. They have to worry about a lot of the stuff, and they carry a lot. So those students who are in the University of Iowa, no matter what ethnicity, look for them, give support to them, because they are struggling.
Yeah, I think final thoughts sounds like where we're going, but asking all community to learn to really listen to each other, to learn to listen to community needs, because what we bring, what everybody brings to this community is valioso. I can't think of the word in English for
Valuable.
Thank you. That our lived experiences are important. They make us who we are, and they bring a lot of power to the community. And so I think one of the asks that we walk away from this table and this conversation is that you see the value in the people that are around you in your community, and look around and see who's missing, who isn't at your table, who are you not in conversation with naturally, because that is just as important as choosing to be open-minded and going out to find conversations. It's also creating those spaces for those conversations to come to you. That's really going to create a more inclusive and progressive community. And I think the last piece that I know we have talked a lot about today is don't put people in situations where they have to create their own power. Do not create barriers. Do not put up roadblocks or signs to make people have to work harder to prove their worth and power. Every person comes in with lived experiences, with power on their own, and we should value that. And so that can be hard because we live in a society that was built to give power and authority in very particular ways. And we understand that that's how society works, but also we can choose to do better.
But also don't focus on adults. We have college students, high school students. They are our future. And that's what we need more, I think, right now. It's pushing them and helping them to be really educated so they can be in the political side and we can start moving and do the change.
Yeah, and the slideshow behind us is actually the Latinos in Iowa report for 2023. So it has lots of really fantastic statistics about the Latino community. If you want to see the full report, it's on the Office of Latino Affairs from the Iowa Department of Iowa Department of Health and Social Services. Sorry, they just melded together, so I don't know what their new name is. But just interesting facts, things to learn about. And absolutely, the reality, I think, that we put a lot of weight on the shoulder of our youths. And so anything we can do to support their growth is going to be impactful for the next 100 years. But thank you so much for coming. And I believe we're going to open to questions.
Well, please, before we get to questions, I really want to thank you all, too, for doing this. It's been excellent. Before we begin with questions, I want to thank our supporters and donors for their support, in particular, Humanities Iowa for today's program. If you would like to join ICFRC or make a donation to help support our programs, please go to icfrc.org, or you can check out some of our signs around here, and there's a little QR code. You can actually just donate directly if you want. So if you have a question, please raise your hand, and I'm going to come around with a microphone so that we can have it recorded.
No todos al mismo tiempo, uno por uno.
Not everyone at the same time, okay? One by one.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and take the opportunity to ask a question. I know you're involved with Center for Workers' Justice. Can you talk about some of the programs that are going on with Center for Workers' Justice now?
Está preguntando que ustedes hablaron sobre Center for Worker Justice. ¿Pueden hablar sobre los programas que ellos tienen en estos momentos en la comunidad?
Clases de computación, clases de inglés y clases de costura.
We are offering computer classes, Spanish classes, and also sewing classes.
And there are lots of other organizations that are providing support in many ways, like Open Heartland and others that I can't think off the top of my head, but that is another way to support the community.
Yeah, you can go to check with IC Compassion. They have the Open Heartland, the Prairie Lands to volunteer, sign to be volunteer, and it's been a lot in there. So I think also they have a group in the libraries that they have a conversation in English that you can enjoy and talk to them. That it's going to help a lot.
Are there other organizations that you want to tell us about now while you have the opportunity?
I don't know any off the top of my head. I think Elizabeth commented about Prairie Lands Freedom Fund and Open Heartland and IC Compassion. But there's a number of organizations in our community that are looking for a lot of support with the Latino community because the need is there. And there are barriers to accessing those services, mostly around language.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The food bank, they both in all three areas, I think they're looking for Spanish speaker. As you know, our Latino community is growing up right now, and they actually in need a person who can do interpreter, translated in those areas. It's a high needed.
And I think not only nonprofit organizations, but seeing jobs where the community recurs to, like the free medical clinic in trying to hire bilingual dental doctors. I don't know what dental dentists. I know the county was looking for a long time for a dietitian, a nutritionist that was bilingual. The public library hired 2 bilingual children's librarians, which is really exciting, but also that in itself is also spreading the word to opportunities to people with different skill sets that wouldn't naturally tend to go into those fields is just as important as supporting nonprofits through volunteer work.
And I think the school district also, sometimes they hiring people who are bilingual, and we actually need people who are bilingual and interpreter also inside of the school. It's a clinic for students who doesn't have health insurance, and it's Healthy Clinics is the name. You can donate to them also because they provide basically, I think most of the stuff that they need. Mental health, medicine, immunization. They work with the Johnson County, and it's really a good way to help kids who are in the school and they don't have health insurance to get vaccine or immunization to get started school. I think that's a great opportunity to help them too.
Thank you for sharing all this information and your own experiences. It's really inspirational
Gracias
to
por,
hear.
gracias por compartir con nosotros toda esta información. Ha sido de verdad muy inspirador.
You've talked a lot about different age groups and their needs and their strengths. Do you have anything to say about older adults in the Latino community and any kinds of service needs that may be or ways that they're participating?
Hablaron anteriormente de los grupos de edades, los niños, los más adolescentes, de sus necesidades, de sus fortalezas, pero también me preguntaba qué hay de los adultos más mayores, cuáles serían sus necesidades o cómo ellos participan de esto.
As my own experience in Open Heartland, I was actually, we don't have anything like for older people who been living in here and don't have any education. They only work and work. So in my time in Open Heartland, I was hoping to do the stimulus check so they can have something, but they still continue to work. Like I know people that 75, 80, and they still working. So they don't have any support. The only way is continue work. And that's another thing that I was thinking and as person, like how hard it is that nobody talks to them about retire, about saving, about all these issues. We come back again that because wasn't nobody there to prepare the path. So unfortunately here in Iowa, we don't have anything for those people. So when somebody passes away, we struggle a lot. And because the body needs to be sent in to their family in Mexico. Some people, they've been 20 years, don't see and is going to be receiving. And we struggle to get that body back to their country. We have to work with the Consulate of Mexico. And with the here in Iowa, I've been really grateful that the Johnson County able to help some. And now I say, like, I'm just telling you, it's not easy. I've been working with 3 of those people, families, and it's really hard because they have to wait 3 months sometimes to get the body out of the United States. And it's the family up there are waiting for them. So it's, for elder, it's getting, and we don't have no programs. Nobody's focusing in any programs for those people. I think it's just, I've been seeing that experience, but I don't think we have time to stop and thinking what we can do. And I think if somebody wants to lead that path, please do it. I'm happy to support in any way if you guys need.
Por el momento tenemos un grupo de mujeres en Open Heartland que estamos manejando cómo ayudarlas. Bueno, obvio, yo no lo hago, ¿verdad? Viene un doctor, enfermeras, porque el tema sería cómo manejar el estrés. A raíz de la pandemia, pues mucha gente estaba muy preocupada, los niños, muchas cosas se sumaron, entonces se creó un programa para mujeres, por el momento es para mujeres porque es la que más llega a Open Heartland, para saber cómo manejar el estrés y varios temas. Y por el momento estamos trabajando, no lo hemos aterrizado, no lo hemos empezado, pero sí estamos viendo lo que usted acaba de decir, un programa para personas adultas. Pero apenas lo vamos a empezar, no hay nada todavía, estamos viendo cómo lo vamos a hacer, los recursos, pero sí estamos pensando en las personas adultas, más con los temas del Alzheimer y todo eso, entonces sí lo vamos a aterrizar, pero todavía no lo tenemos.
And, for the moment, we have a group of women in the Open Heartland that are trying to work with doctors and nurses on managing stress, because we do know that after the pandemic, a lot of our communities, children, adults, had the stress of the pandemic, the worries, the concerns. So we are working on a program that can impact like the older society. For example, people with Alzheimer, we know that they are there. We're working on it, but we haven't started nothing at all. We're still needing some resources, talking about some things. So it is a project that we are working on, but it's not a project that we have started yet.
I think to your point is something interesting too, is bridging that cultural gap when it comes to aging people. I think American culture and society doesn't necessarily have a great grasp on how to support those age groups. And so for us, it's interesting because in our cultures, we're very, very often multi-generational homes. I grew up with my parents and my grandparents for most of my lifetime, and that feels and always has been very normal. And so I think we're just starting to see kind of these cultural divides and seeing, maybe first or second generation Hispanic Americans or Latino Americans who aren't in the possibility to help their aging parents, or their aging parents have also infused themselves with American culture of saying like, I'm not going to live in that multi-generational home of like, I'm going to create my home, you're going to create your home. We're still going to support each other. And so I think we are seeing a lot of having to bridge those gaps, of having to help those elder or aging groups start to manage their way and navigate their way around American culture. I do it with my own parent, and that doesn't seem odd to me. It's the reality of we are exploring something for the very first time. And I consider myself lucky because now when I age, I will hopefully know more than when we started. But I think to your point, we're very much in that trajectory of navigating what that looks like for our communities, and what does it mean when we aren't in intergenerational homes, and what does that look like, and what kind of navigation takes. And I think the federal government has started to get into language access and providing support in different languages, but there's a lot that plays there, especially around culture and understanding people. As I always thought of myself, I had to grow up with one foot in each culture, and I had to be really good at both of them. And so I think that's kind of what this is us navigating and figuring out how do we keep one foot in both cultures and provide support in ways that make sense for both.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth, Marcela, and Paola. So thank you. And also a very heartfelt thank you to Natalia. Yeah, okay, for our Spanish translation.
Yeah,
so
ahead.
thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I just wanted to add, previously this year, I was invited to interpret in the Farmers National Practice Convention, I don't know. And in that convention was when I first saw Marcela. Now that she took the glasses off, I recognize her. And I just got to say, when I met Marcela for the first time, I didn't knew this side of her, that she was this involved in helping the community. I just thought that she was there, for her own sake, for her own learning. But now that I see this, I'm like, she probably was there for everybody that wasn't able to go there to get that information. I can say I saw her working because she was asking lots of questions. She was getting contacts, info, resources. And I was like, this woman is making me work a lot. I'd be asking everybody, but now that I see her here, I understand why she was making a lot of questions, why she was talking to everybody, why she was connecting, and it's so awesome to see that it was more of her. And I think it is like that with everybody we see in the community. You see a person walking, but there's more of that person. So Marcela, you are wonderful. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, Marcela did not even speak about any of her work with Global Food Project. So.
Sí, faltaron muchas cosas por decir.
We're going to make this like a monthly thing. Don't worry. Please come back for all of the sessions.
Okay, good.
Doing something as simple as going into local businesses, like they mentioned La Mexicana. I didn't know that was incredible. I'm gonna go visit the booth. But in the summer, Marcela has a really good taco stand. Those are my favorites. So just being there and being able to participate by going into local restaurants.
Support local businesses.
Local businesses, restaurants, not just places where at restaurants, just more and supporting that way.
Well, I think we could continue this discussion for a long time. There's a lot more to say, but unfortunately, our time is up. This, I will say, is Iowa City Foreign Relations Council's 12th program of the fall. Our next program features Jean Desiree Kouassi. You can tell I'm not good at names here, but we'll be speaking about digital democracy and youth empowerment. So you are welcome to join us for that program from 12 to 1 p.m. this coming Thursday, 2 weeks from today, Thursday, November 30th, here in the public library and online, where we will actually be having our speaker come to us from the Ivory Coast in Western Africa through Zoom, and they will talk about how young people are using digital technologies to promote and strengthen democracy, including accessing information, participating in political discussions, and holding elected officials accountable. So the one good thing from the pandemic, I have to say, is us getting to use Zoom. So when we can have a speaker from the Ivory Coast, I think that's pretty exciting. So, but with that, I'm hoping our speakers might stick around so we can have more discussion. But at this point in time, I want to thank them again for all your work. Not just for being here today, but for all you do every day. Thank you very much. And with that, we are adjourned.